The restaurant had gone completely silent. More than 100 engineers stood around a $1 million machine that refused to start. Some looked frustrated. Some looked embarrassed. A few had already given up. For 3 days straight, they had tested wires, replaced systems, and argued over data. Nothing worked. Then, from the back of the crowd, a tired single dad in grease-stained boots quietly said, "Can I take a look?" Nobody noticed him at first. But 10 minutes later, the impossible happened. If stories about kindness, humility, and second chances inspire you, make sure to subscribe to Kindness Unlimited, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world how powerful simple kindness can be. Marcus Hill had spent most of his life fixing things nobody else could fix. Cars, trucks, generators, broken lawnmowers, even old washing machines people left on the side of the road. He never went to college. He never wore a suit. But his hands carried 20 years of experience, and his heart carried something even more valuable: patience. Every morning before sunrise, Marcus woke up in his tiny apartment in Detroit with his 8-year-old daughter Lily. He made her pancakes shaped like little hearts, braided her hair badly, and walked her to school before heading to the repair garage where he worked. Life had not been easy since his wife passed away 4 years earlier. Some months, Marcus barely had enough money to cover rent. There were nights he skipped dinner so Lily could eat properly. But no matter how hard life became, he stayed kind. At the garage, people loved him. Not because he was loud. Not because he wanted attention. But because Marcus treated everyone with respect. The teenage delivery driver. The old janitor. Customers who couldn't afford repairs. Marcus always found a way to help. Sometimes he even fixed cars for free when families were struggling. "Everybody's fighting a battle," he often told Lily. "So be gentle whenever you can." One cold Thursday afternoon, Marcus received a strange phone call. A large engineering company outside the city needed emergency help. Their backup power system had completely failed, shutting down an important manufacturing plant. Over 100 engineers had already spent days trying to solve the problem. The company was desperate. Marcus almost said no. He was exhausted after working 12 straight hours. But the manager on the phone sounded defeated. "Please," the man whispered. "We are out of options." Marcus looked at Lily doing homework at the kitchen table. Then he smiled softly. "All right," he said. "I'll come." When Marcus arrived at the massive building, he immediately felt out of place. Engineers in expensive jackets rushed through hallways carrying tablets and laptops. Security guards barely looked at him. One young engineer even frowned when he saw Marcus's old pickup truck pull into the parking lot. "That guy," the engineer muttered. "We've got MIT graduates here." Inside the main control room, tension filled the air. Huge screens flashed warning signals while managers argued back and forth. The broken machine sat in the center of the room like a giant metal monster nobody could defeat. Marcus quietly listened as engineers explained everything they had already tried. New software. System resets. Complete rewiring. Nothing worked. One engineer crossed his arms and smirked. "With respect," he said, looking Marcus up and down. "We've tried everything." Marcus nodded politely. "I understand," he replied gently. "Mind if I just listen to her?" The room became confused. "Listen to her?" another engineer asked. Marcus walked over to the machine and placed his hands softly on the metal hood. Then he closed his eyes. For almost a full minute, nobody spoke. The engineers exchanged awkward looks. But Marcus stayed calm. Finally, he bent down and tapped one tiny section near the lower panel. "There," he whispered. An older engineer frowned. That component was checked already. Marcus smiled kindly. "I know. But sometimes a machine sounds healthy even when one small piece is hurting." Using a flashlight from his pocket, Marcus carefully opened the panel. Deep inside, hidden behind layers of wiring, was a tiny cracked connector no larger than a finger. The entire room froze. "How did we miss that?" someone whispered. Marcus replaced the damaged part, tightened 2 bolts, and stepped back. "Try it now." One engineer pressed the startup button. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the entire building hummed back to life. Lights flashed on. Machines restarted. The control screens turned green. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the room exploded with cheers. Managers hugged each other. Engineers stared in shock. One young worker actually laughed so hard he started crying. The company's senior director walked straight toward Marcus. "How much do we owe you?" he asked immediately. Marcus shrugged. "Just enough to cover the part," he said. The director blinked in disbelief. "Sir, you just saved us millions of dollars." Marcus smiled tiredly. "Well, people helped me when my life was falling apart too." The room became quiet again. One of the younger engineers stepped forward slowly. Earlier, he had mocked Marcus's appearance. Now he looked ashamed. "I'm sorry," he admitted softly. "We judged you before you even touched the machine." Marcus looked at him kindly. "Happens every day," he said. "Don't let it happen tomorrow." Those words hit harder than anyone expected. Later that evening, as Marcus packed his tools, several engineers approached him one by one. They asked questions. They listened carefully. But what surprised them most was not Marcus's knowledge. It was his kindness. He never bragged. Never embarrassed anyone. Never acted superior. Even after proving everyone wrong, Marcus treated every person in that room with dignity. Before leaving, the director handed Marcus an envelope. Inside was far more money than Marcus had ever seen. "You earned it," the director said. Marcus stared at the envelope quietly. Then he looked toward a tired janitor mopping the hallway nearby. "How long has he been working tonight?" Marcus asked. "Probably 16 hours, someone answered. Marcus pulled out part of the money and walked over to the janitor. "Take this home to your family," he said softly. The janitor's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, why would you do that?" Marcus smiled. "Because I know what it feels like to need help." That night, Marcus drove home under the glowing city lights feeling lighter than he had in years. When he opened the apartment door, Lily ran into his arms. "Did you fix it?" she asked excitedly. Marcus laughed. "Yeah, sweetheart. We fixed it." "We?" Marcus nodded. "Because nobody succeeds alone." Lily smiled as Marcus tucked her into bed later that night. "Dad," she whispered sleepily. "Yes." "You're really smart." Marcus kissed her forehead gently. Being kind matters more. And maybe that was the real lesson all those engineers learned that day. Not every hero wears a suit. Not every genius has a degree. Sometimes the wisest person in the room is the one who stayed humble through pain, stayed gentle through struggle, and chose kindness even when life gave them every reason not to. Because kindness has a way of opening doors pride can never unlock. And sometimes, the smallest act of respect can restart something much bigger than a machine. It can restart hope inside another human being.